inaugural Fuel Richer Cup Series. Huge crash on the front straightaway to the line. Martinez to the line. The Finger Lakes region of upstate New York is known for fine wine, quiet small towns, and some of the most beautiful scenery in the United States in its bountiful state parks. But there's one town at the southern tip of Seneca Lake that refuses to blend in with this exorbitant quiet. Meet Watkins Glen International, a 3.4-mile, 11-turn road course just outside of Watkins Glen, New York. It's got high speeds, banking, a 110-foot climb through turns 2, 3, and 4, and signature blue Armco that is so beautiful, yet so dangerous. At its widest point, the track is over 60 feet across. At its narrowest and fastest point, it's about 34 feet across. The Washington, D.C. region SCCA takes on the Superspeedway of Road Courses with a new class format that now includes the Kia Optima, a front-wheel drive, turbocharged touring car that is as challenging and rewarding to drive. After 25 minutes, we'll crown 3 drivers victorious in 3 separate classes. Welcome to SimTV. My name is Kyle Heyer, and we're here tonight with Finian DeCuna and Dominic Mandiel. And Finian, this promises to be a fantastic new format here with 3 classes instead of just 2.
Yeah, it's a new series with a new logo and a new face, not new everything, and also the new class structure, as you can see there. The Kia Optima now is the leading class. The big bore Ford Mustang is now going to be the middle class, and that's going to be interesting for 2 reasons, because they're going to be being overtaken by Kias, potentially overtaken by Kias. I'm not sure they're going to be able to come all the way around in time, but also have to try to work through the Mazda. So instead of having just 2 classes, which is a really easy dynamic to work out with 3 cars, it gets quite busy on the racetrack.
Absolutely. So again, 3-class format, and the Kia Optima, 375 horsepower from that little 2-liter turbo, but it's 3,000 pounds. It's not necessarily a super light car, but it's not super heavy either. The big boy of the group is the Ford Mustang, 325 horsepower from an engine that's over double the size of the Kias, but it's 3,600 pounds. It weighs as much as a pickup truck. It's a lot of fun to drive. That's my favorite of the 3. And the GMX-5 class with the Mazda MX-5, the global category, 155 horsepower from an inline 4. Just under 2,000 pounds. Very, very light car.
Yeah, and I think really you can just see there visually the difference between all 3 cars. The leading car is a front-wheel drive. The other 2 are rear-wheel drive. Front car is also, and that's going to be interesting with the Kia too. It might not seem like there's that big of a difference, but 50 horsepower and 600 pounds lighter, that can lead to a lot of speed on the track.
All right, and as we take a look at right now, qualifying is underway. The first 15 minutes of this half-hour session are devoted to just TCR and big bore classes qualifying. So the Kias and Fords will share the track for the first 15 minutes. Then the Mazda MX-5s will go out by themselves for the final 15 minutes. And Dominic Mandiel, again with us here, was with us last season, is with us again. Dominic, welcome back. And second of all, this class structure is a little bit different because the Mustang drivers are used to looking out just the windshield, but they also have to be looking out of the mirror tonight as well with the touring cars coming up behind them.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle, for having me back. And that's absolutely the case. I think the Kia Optima is going to add another wrinkle to this with now 3 classes being on the track at the same time. And the Kia, I think, will be a sleeper on the streets, especially with that turbo. And they're going to have to worry about catching the Mazdas in the corners and then making sure they can keep their own through the corners. As we know, the MX-5 is going to be the real handler of the 3 classes. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how these 3 classes interact with one another.
Absolutely. We know quite well, Finian, after the last time we were here at Watkins Glen with this group, how the Mustangs and MX-5s work together. They were here a few months ago, and the Mustangs struggled to get up the hill the first time. There was a big crash up through the S's, but that also kind of created an interesting dynamic as some of the Mustangs were climbing through the MX-5 field. But tonight now, the Kias get thrown in here as well, and really, the MX-5s will outperform the other 2 classes in the corners. But down the straightaways, it's definitely Kia, Mustang, MX-5.
Yeah, and again, we got to see, especially also the Mustangs have to deal with the Kias for the first time, so this might be some new territory for a lot of drivers. There have been some testing sessions, but really you never know how it's going to play out until you get into the race. All
right, absolutely. You see the new ticker that is here with us tonight. This is the first time we're running this new multi-class ticker, and if we take a look, it's separated by class. The top yellow gold class, of course, is the TCR category. The blue is the Ford FR500 in the big bore class, and the red is the GMX5 category. So that is class separated, and every 60 seconds it will rotate out between the class and the overall position running order. And we're going to stick with the overall for now as we're running through qualifying here, Finian, right now. Another thing to keep in mind is a lot of the quick drivers, Ken Hausiel, DJ Alessandrini, Pelota, Herbst, Obadia, a lot of those drivers switched over to the Kia instead of the Mustang. So that's going to open up the opportunities for guys like Dave Fitzgerald and Michael Monaghan to walk away with victories in the Mustang category.
Yeah, definitely. Quite a few drivers from both the MX-5 and the Mustang field both went into the Kia field. And pretty strong classes overall. I think we got about 8 drivers in the Kia, about 10 in the Mustang, and about I want to say 13.
Yeah, that's a rough
in
rough
the Mazda.
number.
So decent field sizes for all of them. So it should make for some great racing, and pretty much 3 different races going on.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at our conditions for the weather here tonight. Air temp 78 degrees, track temp 99 degrees. A little bit toasty out there. Very low humidity, only 1%, and a slight breeze from the west at 3 miles an hour. Clear sky conditions. Going to be a beautiful afternoon for racing. And Dominic, last time we were here, it was a similarly timed race. I think it was a 30-minute race the last time we were here. And we saw the rush at the start and the crash up through the S's in the Mustang category. We talked about patience. Now, the class sizes are a little bit smaller than they were with the 2-class system, and now we've kind of separated the field out some more. So does the urgency go down when there's only 7 to 10 cars in each class?
So Kyle, I think that the urgency will always be there. The question is where you make your move if you're going to make it early. Do you want to try to do it on the back straight before the bus stop? Do you want to try to do it once we get into the infield? It's really going to be dependent on where the drivers want to make their moves, because making moves early is fine. It just make sure that you make it in a place where you're not going to jeopardize your race or someone else's.
And speaking of jeopardizing the race, obviously Finian, first lap last time, big crash up through the S's. Let's ride on board with, let's pick on Jimmy Sappel here in the 48 car as he climbs the S's. We'll ride on board. And Finian, let's just walk me through a lap here on Watkins Glen.
Well, here they come now down on the back, or part of the, I guess, one of the back straightaways, heading towards the bus stop. And this is going to be a very big passing zone for a lot of drivers because you can just carry such a big draft and then shoot out to make the pass. But here's the bus stop, and this is going to be very difficult for some of these cars, especially the Mustang and the Kia, just because the Mustang is so heavy trying to go through and you have to lug it around, and the Kia being front-wheel drive.
As we work our way through the carousel now, we come out of the carousel down into the boot section, and this is where the Kia is going to struggle the most. These are long, sweeping corners, and the Kia really only likes to accelerate in a straight line. Those front-wheel drive tires will just tear you off the side of the racetrack if you put the power down too soon. The Mustangs and the Miatas will handle a little bit better here, but I still think the MX-5s will definitely turn the best. So down here, you're going to have to really be a lot quicker than an MX-5 if you're wanting to make a pass. Down here at the toe of the boot, one of the slowest corners on the track, a 180-degree turn, then we head uphill towards the heel of the boot. And another very tight right-hander. There's tall curbs on the right-hand side of the racetrack. Not a lot of runoff room on the exit, just a little FIA spec curb on the exit and a big gravel trap there. We saw a lot of incidents down here as well the last time we were here with Washington, D.C. Region SCCA. We climb out of the heel of the boot, up the hill again, and rejoin what is the NASCAR short circuit. And we go through a little short shoot here, and then off to NASCAR turn 6, or in this layout, turn number 10. A left-hander, and it's a little bit off camber at speed, and a lot of drivers, it'll just be a lift in the Mustangs and the Miatas, probably a little bit of brake in the Kias. Another short shoot off to turn number 11, a right-hander back onto the front straightaway. Then we head down to turn number 1, again, a 90-degree right-hander, and that's a big braking area, a lot of downshifting, and a big, great passing opportunity.
Yeah, there's pretty much a lap here at Watkins Glen. You can see very flowing circuit, and like you were saying, not going to be too entirely suited for the Kias. Obviously, the Kia is still going to be faster, but as far as getting around traffic, I think the Kia might have a little bit of a struggle with there. And it really is due to the fact that it is a front-wheel drive car, and front-wheel drive cars tend to understeer in the corners, so essentially they just kind of like to plow on straight, and they really don't like to turn as much compared to wheel drive cars like the Mustang and the Miata.
And yeah, Dominic, one of the things we're going to keep an eye on here tonight is we mentioned it before that a lot of the drivers that were in the Mustang category last season are now in the Kia category, and two of those drivers being DJ Alessandrini and Ken Hausil. Those drivers both fought together a lot in the MX-5 class, and now they're in the Kia front-wheel drive car. Do you think you can lean on each other a little bit more or use a little bit more fender now that you can really just mash the throttle and save yourself from an oversteer situation?
So, Carl, I think that in this situation, the Kia is going to be a car where I think you are going to have that little bit more comfort and be able to go side by side with just the knowledge that you're probably going to be better off coming out. And as you mentioned about front-wheel drive cars and understeer, it's going to be something that they're going to have to be worried about, especially in turn 1 where there is so much runoff. But I do think that the Kias will be able to go side by side in a lot of the corners where with the Mustangs it would have been a lot more challenging.
Absolutely, and you see right now we're taking a look at DJ Alessandrini, and Finney, this guy's won about everything that he's raced in, and this is a car that we have not seen him in yet. Obviously, very, very fast in the MX-5s, and that's in pretty much every category we've seen him in. Also fast in the Porsche 911 Cup car. We saw him in Track Midwest a few weeks ago, but how about a front-wheel drive Kia? Do you think his superiority is going to reign still here?
I don't know. It's kind of tough to tell because usually in race cars, if you're a good driver, it'll carry on through. But this is such a different car compared to most of the cars on the iRacing service. Because most race cars in real life are rear-wheel drive or even all-wheel drive, but very few. Pretty much the touring car class is cars like the Kia are front-wheel drive. So it requires a little bit of a different look. A different driving style, but we're definitely seeing with him in second place, only a 10th behind Kenneth Hausiel, who also jumped up into the Kia class, that he seems to be pretty much on his game. And also, I should note, too, we got pretty much some of the fastest drivers from both fields. We got Kenneth Hausiel and DJ Alessandrini, who were constantly fighting for the championship in the MX-5 category last season, and also got Andrew Perlotta and Kyle Herbst and Greg Obadia up here fighting for the overall victory.
And Alessandrini unable to improve his time there. Missed it by a couple hundredths of a second. Will pull off the racetrack. How about Dave Fitzgerald in the number 19 Ford Mustang? This is a guy, he just finished qualifying right now in P number 4. This is a guy that was just short of getting some really awesome finishes last season, and maybe this is his time to break through now that some of the other guys have changed classes.
Yeah, indeed. He was Fitzgerald, honestly, one of the fastest drivers from the Mustang class last season too. So his remaining in the class is going to be fighting with David Alessi, Forrest Landy for potentially the championship, and especially in this race as they're all near the top of the charts.
All right, we can take a look again at our ticker, and again, I want to keep cycling this back and forth between classes and overall. I have it set to just overall for qualifying, but here's a look at the class construction. You see the MX-5s have not laid down a time yet, so they'll be blank for now, but during the race it'll swap back and forth, so you can keep an eye on the battles in each and every class without having to rely on that scrolling ticker at the bottom. But that's what we'll say for now as we work our way through qualifying, and only about 30 seconds left in qualifying for the MX-5, or excuse me, for the Mustangs and the Kias. And I think pretty much everyone that wanted to get a lap in has probably got one in.
Yeah, I think actually pretty much except Bob that's Shoemaker. Is that actually Shoemaker?
I think it's Shoemaker.
Okay.
we'll go with that for now, and it will get corrected, probably. But yeah, I mean, everyone that looked like they wanted to take it. So that's 10 Mustangs and 10 Kias, exactly, right on the nose.
Hey, perfect.
So the top 20 cars, or at least 19 of the top 20, have qualified in, and the MX-5s are already rolling out of pit lane. Here they come off of pit road here, Finian, and this is definitely going to be interesting to watch. Dominic, I think qualifying in these cars, 100% you're going to want to rely on the draft for qualifying, right?
Yep. Drafting would absolutely come into play here, and you're also going to want to be careful about where you draft, because down the front stretch is where you're going to obviously get the most benefit from the draft, but also down when you get into the infield here, you're going to want to make sure that you find someone who's exiting and entering corners about the same speed that you do, and that's really going to help you in some of these more technical sections where you might have an issue with having multiple cars in the pack where they can have an advantage. So having a partner with you will definitely be beneficial in the twisty parts of the course.
And one thing to keep in mind, Finian, is that iRacing doesn't like when you make contact in qualifying. So even if it's just a 0x contact, it will invalidate your lap. So is it more of a slingshot kind of deal, or are you just going to try to get right on the bumper and just hope and pray you don't actually hit it?
I think best is probably just to keep it off the bumper regardless, because the iRacing system can be kind of finicky. If you hit it with just enough force and trigger the system, there goes your lap. Especially in the Miata, it's a long way around to start another lap, so you don't really have too much time to play around with. These guys are still on their out lap, and we're already a minute and a halfway through their session, so can't afford to play around. So I think it's best probably just to play it safe, keep it away from the other cars, just try to use the draft as much as possible.
There you see right now Elias Roman in the number 99. He's a returning driver to this series. Sam Scott in the 98 car, he's out here as well. And a few new drivers, Nicholas Palaccio, I believe. I'm going to stick with that. Again, some of these names are new to us. We're going to get corrected. But for now, we're going to go with Palaccio. Patrick Alejandro in the 28 car. Another new name that I don't really recall from before. Matt Meyer in the 125. That's a new name as well. Lots of new drivers in the MX-5 class.
Yeah, no, notable returning drivers is Paul Darling in the 155. And I think he's going to have a very strong season in this class. A lot of his competitors, he's pretty much fighting with, if it wasn't how Seal and Allison Drini going for the win in the MX-5 category. It was Paul Darling that was up there, so he lost quite a bit of that competition, so I expect the 155 to be up there. Also notably, Khalil Natirbov has joined the MX-5 category for this season, actually jumps up to the front.
And also Dennis Barrett, who was a regular in the Mustang category last season, has now joined the dark side for the MX-5, and that's got to be quite a switch, Dominic, to go from a car that's got 325 horsepower from a 4.6 liter V8 to a tiny little 155 horsepower engine. So that's got to change your driving style a little bit, don't you think?
I definitely do think so. With the heavier, more powerful car, you have to be more conservative with equipment, and with the lighter car, you can abuse things a little bit more because you know that it's not going to be as harsh on the tires and it's not going to be as harsh on the brakes, especially when you're trying to stop something like a Mustang that weighs so much. And so I think you'll find that he's going to have the courage to just push things a little bit more, where with the Mustang it was a lot more of keep your equipment under you and wait till the end to really start making your moves.
Absolutely. So now we just have under 12 minutes remaining in qualifying now, and that's been one thing Dominic mentioned was the braking of the Mustang, and that's got to be a huge change to get into the MX-5, which basically stops on a dime. Both cars have anti-lock brakes, but this car is so light, it's almost half the weight of the Mustang. So do you think that a guy like Dennis Barrett might be more likely to brake earlier than he needs to after coming from a car that heavy?
Well, again, it depends on how much practice he's got in the MX-5 to kind of get off the habits. But yeah, definitely from driving a car a lot, you kind of carry those habits over to a newer car. So if he's adapted enough, I think he should be fine. But definitely he might be prone to braking a lot earlier because really you can really lunge into the corners a lot with the Miata compared to the other two cars we have.
All right, so right now on the provisional pole is Thomas Lee in the number 32, another new name here tonight with a 2:19.9, but that's obviously not really a full up-to-speed lap. That includes pit exit, so he'll come on through. He'll be the first one to, not quite. I think Paul Darling might be the first driver to come on through and lay down a time, either that or the blue vehicle up front, so we'll see in a moment who lays down the first time. And it'll be Elias Roman in the 99 with a 2:10.7. And interestingly, Finian, the slowest qualified Mustang is Alan Claffey with a 2:09.2, so only about a second and a half of separation between the slowest Mustang and the fastest MX-5, but I'm going to guess that Claffey didn't get a great lap as the next closest Mustang is 3 seconds up the road.
Yeah, definitely. So I think he's going to have to hope for a lot better, but yeah, he's almost gone into the Miata time, so he's going to, hopefully he can improve his pace during the race. And actually, there's a Kia out there. I think he didn't get the memo.
Darren Treacle in the 70 car is out on... Actually, that's not even him. That's...
Ovadia?
No, it's Bob Shoemaker in the 55.
Oh. I'm guessing they might have let him run a time, but...
Well, this is going to disturb the MX-5s a little bit here, especially if they're on a flying lap. So that's going to be a little bit irritating if they catch him in the wrong spot. So I'm sure there's probably some drivers that are shaking their head at that right now. But Elias Roman out front with a 2:10.7. And Paul Darling in second place with a 2:10.9 with 9.5 minutes remaining. And look at the size difference between those two. I'm trying to find what car that was. It was a pink car. It's Charles Foley in the 63.
It looks like an older brother.
You get a good look at the size difference. These things going down the back straightaway. Look at the size of that Kia.
Yeah.
Get the M8 big boy memes out for this thing. It's about 9 minutes left in this race. And take a look at our conditions. They actually have changed a little bit. The track temp is now up to 101. That's a 2-degree change here, Finn. And as far as I know, we're going to be racing in early afternoon, so the temperature will probably continue to rise throughout the afternoon. And Watkins Glen, at least in this state, is not known for being super slick, but obviously as the temperatures rise, it's going to get harder to drive. Yeah,
it's definitely going to be, especially the more that it's in direct sunlight. You can see that actually temperatures went up to 102. The more that it's in this direct sunlight, the temperatures are going to go further and further up. Without much stoppage, unless really, and I think really the only time that we're going to see it cool down is if a giant cloud goes in front of the sun and cools down the track.
And again, it's clear conditions, so probably not a whole lot of clouds here tonight, but across the line, Elias Roman continues to hold the pole spot. Paul Darling in second, Noel Leslie in third, Dennis Barrett fourth, Sam Scott fifth. And Richard DeMarco returning in the mellow yellow MX-5. He's got a great draft from one of the other drivers that was just in front of him, Patrick Alejandro with a 2:13.1. And I know from experience that driving the MX-5 around Watkins Glen, you're on the throttle probably 90% of the time during this lap, and you're in probably fifth gear 85 to 90% of the time. This is a very, very fast track in this car, and this will be a draft fest, at least for the top 5 drivers, and maybe even for the Mustangs a little bit. The Kias will probably get themselves spread more out.
Yeah, definitely. So I think just due to the, like you're saying, the way that they drive, it's going to get spread out as the run goes on. But definitely, we're going to expect to see the Miatas. If no wreck happens, they're going to be right on top of each other the whole race.
And first lap butterflies, I'm sure, for a lot of drivers, especially in the Kia category. Not a car that you could typically see running side by side in such a tight area as the S's of Watkins Glen. Remember, the Kia is a touring car that is very similar to the World Touring cars that you might see in Britain. And those cars race on very wide open tracks, and they don't really funnel down like Watkins Glen does. And remember, I mentioned in the intro, 60 feet down to 34 at the narrowest point. And running side by side in those big cars, that's going to be really, really scary.
Yeah, I mean, again, too, last season we saw a big wreck up in the S's from guys from the track just funneling down. Guys ran out of room, and it caused a big pileup, taking out a lot of competitors. So hopefully we don't see something like that this race, but never know what can happen.
Again, 25-minute race. Track temp just over 100 degrees now. You see Thomas Lee run a little bit wide on the exit of turn 8. I'm trying to make sure I get my corner numbers right. Because if we take a look at this graphic, this is one of the things I really wish I could fix. Is 12 turns. There's no way that makes 12. I mean, everybody count with me. Bottom left, that's turn 1. Go up, that's turn 2. Turn 3, turn 4. The bus stop don't count, so the carousel's turn 5. Then the next one's turn 6, then turn 7, turn 8, turn 9, turn 10. It's either 11 corners, or if you include the bus stop, it's 11. Or 14. 15.
What? Yeah, 15.
But I always thought it was 14 or 11, so I really don't know anymore.
I mean, my definition of a turn is if you change direction, yeah, it's a turn. So, like, in my opinion, most NASCAR ovals have 2. they technically shouldn't have 4, but I digress.
I don't know, Dominic, do you count the bus stop as 4 corners, or do you just ignore it?
Well, I don't think ignoring it's a very safe or smart thing to do, but I think that usually we count it as 2 corners, so the left flick and then the right flick is counts as 2 corners.
Okay, that makes sense. I agree with that. I'll be on board. I still don't know how the ATVO is getting 12 though.
Yeah, you have to ask Nick Thyssen for that.
Well, actually, I don't think it's even Nick Thyssen. I think it's the
it's the
whatever the track map data comes from. Whatever agency did that.
That's iRacing.
I don't even know if it's iRacing. I think they get the track data from a third-party company, but I don't know who that is or who I need to talk to get that changed. But at least the distance is right. 3.362 rounds up to 3.4. Although in the past, I think iRacing's actual data says 3.41. So again, there's even another discrepancy there. Hey, well, it's fine. It's about a 3.5-mile racetrack. It's got about 11 corners. It's fast. It's fun. It's awesome. It's Watkins Glen. There we go. All right, 4.5 minutes remaining in qualifying. Elias Roman still on top of the board here in that 99 car, Finian, and it seems like in each class, it seems like the incumbents have kind of been knocked off the top step. Ken House-Seal takes pole in the Kia category in front of DJ Alessandrini, who is the champion in the MX-5 class last season. Forrest Landy and David Alessi, Michael Monaghan, all very fast drivers. None of them got the pole. It was Christopher Lapras in the 04 who took pole there, and right now Roman is ahead of what I would have expected to be a pole sitter, Paul Darling, by about 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not a jab at Roman, but he was in the dominant car. I would have expected Darling to be at the top of the list, but definitely Elias Roman was running in always within the top 10 in that class, and had some good runs in the top 5 even. So nice to see him stepping up to the occasion. Actually, he's in the 99, red 99.
It's like a little red dragon going on.
Yeah.
Maybe that's some good luck here. They won the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen last July. We were there for that race.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be that team's last win for at least now, with Gainesco leaving.
I don't know if they're running any other series.
The team is, but there's just no longer the Red Dragon. It's the
P2
second
car.
Yeah, it's just the second JDC car.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
that they're running 2 cars.
JDC. Okay. Well, that's neither here nor there as we continue working our way through qualifying. And now Roman's got a great draft off the rear bumper of the 32 of Thomas Lee down the back straightaway. Let's take a look at the top-end speed of this little MX-5. Oh, probably over 120 in the draft here. Well, not quite. 119 before he Jams on the brakes. A little early there for the brakes.
Yeah, this might be him just trying to build up some space maybe for one last go, because by the time these guys get to the line, they should be able to get one more lap in.
Ooh, a little wide here in the carousel. And carousel, one of the corners that's banked about 12 to 14 degrees, depending on where you take that measurement on the racetrack. And that's a lot of banking for a road course, Dominic. And there's not a whole lot of road courses in the U.S. with that much banking. So banking, is confidence inspiring, or is it a little bit intimidating the first time you're out on track?
Well, I can tell you from some of the people that I've talked to who have done bank tracks, you sort of have to, you tend to find yourself gripping the wheel a little bit tighter once you get onto banking for the first time. And it's always a good thing with banking, especially to sort of test the waters to see how comfortable you are going into there and how much style you can put. But once you get more accustomed to it, it becomes more second nature. And for rovals like Charlotte or Daytona, it's something where you're usually not going to get much more banking than that. So if you have an off-camber turn and you're trying to find your apex, I think that ends up being one of the more tricky parts of having a bank turn.
Yeah, and again, Watkins Glen doesn't have extreme banking like Charlotte does, but it's certainly enough to take notice of it. Obviously, we did the track experience at Watkins Glen. Whoa, Thomas Lee hard in the fence. Big crash for the 32 car.
Yeah, that's going to be it for him. I don't think he's going to have, he's definitely not going to have enough time to get back out there, so qualifying effort over for him.
Oh, man. That's a very common wreck you see a lot in turn number 10, and we'll take a couple more angles of it here. But a very common wreck to just hook that curb on corner exit. We'll take another look.
Yeah, this is kind of the problem with rear-wheel drive cars, is the fact that they tend to oversteer. So the back end likes to come out a lot more.
And you see him, he actually clips the grass with the right rear tire, and that's what sends the car around, and massive impact into the tire barrier.
Yeah, and especially when these cars are on the edge of grip and already kind of over, the back end's coming out just a little bit. It's when you get on either curbing or the grass where you lose all grip and the car goes around like we saw.
Yep. And you see a little bit of a wiggle and wobble going on. Trying to find some of these liveries are new to me as well, so I'm gonna just jump through the field here and try to grab the car I was looking for. And probably Chris Howard. Nope. Wow, look at the 461. Who is that? That is Richard DeMarco, all over the rear bumper of the 36. And that's Chris Howard. And wide on the grass. Woohoo!
Yeah, these guys are all gonna come through the line, and they're gonna be going for their final attempt at putting down a time.
They will get one final lap in here as qualifying is coming to a conclusion. Then we'll have 25 minutes of racing set to go with the Kia, the MX-5, and the Ford Mustang. And you see the 461 getting a great run out of the corner, but nowhere to go. And you see the 36 car getting out of his way. You know, his heads-up thinking by Chris Howard.
Yeah, looks like Chris Howard is not going to put down a time. Or I thought, not going to put on a competitive time. Looks like he's going to go on his cooldown lap. And he will be rounding up the end of the field unless Bob Shoemaker is going to be starting from the... I mean,
it might be. We could be wrong.
I mean, that's not how you spell it, like the European way, but
yeah.
I digress. So he's going to be starting for the tail. That'd be interesting if he's starting at the tail end. Kia is going to have to work through not only the MX-5 field, but the Mustang field.
Hopefully,
as well.
It's gridded by class.
I would hope so too.
Obviously, things slip by, and sometimes that doesn't happen, and it creates a very chaotic start to the race. So checkered flag is waving here in qualifying, but all the drivers that have started a lap will get a chance to finish it. And Richard DeMarco in the boot right now, exiting turn number 6. Take another look at our conditions. 103, so we're up 4 degrees from the start of this race, or of the practice, or qualifying, excuse me. And Finian does have to bail a little bit early. What time do you actually have to go?
It depends, really, but I should be able to be here for most of the race.
All right, yeah. Finian is in a rallycross event for another league tonight, so he's got to go run and do a heat race for that event, probably closer to 9 o'clock. So Finian will leave us towards the end, and Dominic and I will take care of the rest of things. But yeah, so again, track temp raising, air temp pretty still there. I think it's really just the heat soak from the sun and the car action on track that has raised that temperature.
Yeah, and again, that's all. And we got to see when the session resets to a new day, what the temperature is going to be at the start. And again, like you said, with the amount of cars putting on the heat, and it hasn't been as dramatic really because we've been split the field pretty much in half for qualifying. It hasn't gotten that much heat from the cars, but it's going to get a lot more during race time.
Take a look at Watkins Glen from high up above. This is not a short racetrack by any stretch of the imagination, Finian. A lot of the tracks that the DC region SCCA runs on are probably a little bit shorter than this. Summit Point, for example, is really the home track of the WDCR SCCA, and that's a little bit short of a racetrack and a lot less fast, although that front straightaway is high speed. But here they carry that speed for really the entirety of the lap. And again, average speeds here well into the 120, 130 mile an hour range for some of the faster race cars. So qualifying is concluded, and I think everyone is off track. And so we'll just wait for that timer to get down to 0. And we'll take a look at our qualifying results. Ken House Seal in the number 23 Kia Optima is going to be your pole sitter for the Kia category. Christopher Lapras in the 04 Mustang is going to be your pole sitter in the big bore category. And Elias Roman will be the pole sitter in the MX-5 category down at the bottom there. And as we get ready to go, we're gridding up for 25 minutes, about 13 laps if all things go as quickly as we expect them to do. Not a very long race here, so the urgency is a little bit high, but again, patience is going to be paramount at the start of this event. See, the crowd is packed in here for what is going to be a pretty entertaining race. I remember the last time we were here, it was only 2 classes, and trust me, we had enough to talk about. Even more this time, though. Again, the class is a little bit smaller than they were because the field has been kind of diversified a little bit and shrunk down to fill a couple more classes. So we got about 10 in each category, a little bit more than that in the MX-5s. Listen to those Kias rumble. I'm just going to shut up for a second and raise this volume, and you can listen to these things. So there, those things are mean sounding for little 2-liter engines. Those are tiny little engines.
I would say that too, and it's turbocharged as well, so you should hear even less noise than you would normally. So that's kind of impressive. There's
class structure once again, 375 horsepower. How they're getting that out of a 2-liter turbo, I don't know. That thing's got to be pretty high strung.
Is it a V6 or what is it?
4-cylinder.
Oh, okay.
And it's a little one. I mean, honestly, it's I don't remember exactly the displacement of the MX-5 engine, but it's not much smaller.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
it's either a 1.8 or a 2.0. The MX-5 guys will correct me, but yeah, there's the class structure once again. So the pace car is about to roll off here.
We should have 34 drivers starting this race. 33 of them put down a time. There you see the Kias rolling off. So the pace lap underway here.
Oh, that's a nice looking camera angle there. Just changed that prior to this start of this event. And there's the Mustangs now coming through. Dave Fitzgerald, the number 19, getting another lease on life here. That's I believe that's a P-51 Mustang livery. Little military style there. That's kind of nice looking. The Kirill Naturbov and the 29 MX-5 poking out there. And the 99 of Elias Roman starting on pole in the MX-5 category. And he's going to have to do a lot of work inside that car to hold off Paul Darling and the rest of that category.
Yeah, like we said earlier, we expect that at least for this these cars that these guys are going to be running pretty much in the pack for most of the race, at least the top few guys. The rest of the field should spread out to a decent amount here and there, so we'll keep an eye on that as the race goes on. Again, 25 minutes on the clock for these drivers, so about 13 laps.
And getting a little bit of class separation is absolutely a necessity. Remember when we were here last, I keep bringing it up, but it's important. Last time we were here, there's a massive crash up through the S's. So hopefully we can avoid that situation again tonight. So the 10 Kias roll on by. You can see the class separation, the Mustangs gathering. That's probably about 30 or 40 car lengths. That should be enough, but again, the MX-5s left a big gut last time, and it almost wasn't.
Here come the Mustangs through.
Well, while we're doing this, let's take another look at our conditions. 104 degrees Fahrenheit now, so the track temp continues to rise. See the MX-5s coming into the bus stop now. And I don't remember the exact number of MX-5s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 I see, but there probably might have missed a row. Everyone that qualified is on the racetrack. So Ken House-Seal in that silver number 23 is going to lead us to green in the Kia category, Finian, and I'm curious to see how these... I've actually, admittedly, never actually watched a race in iRacing with these cars. So
yeah.
I don't even know how these things race. I mean, I've been in a race with them in the Mustangs. I've never actually watched a race. So, going to be an interesting show for the TCR category. Mustangs, we know how... And the Mustangs and MX-5s, we've seen that show before. But now the multi-class interaction changes up a little bit, and there is just enough difference between the classes. We should see some lapping going on, depending on how much of a gap they leave, but it's going to be mighty close towards the end. That could bring in another scenario as well. If the Kias start lapping MX-5s and Mustangs, ooh, it's going to get interesting.
Yeah, so here come the Kias off onto the regular track out of the boot. And we're going to have 3 starts to go through, so this is going to be a very busy start for us.
Bear with us, folks, as we bring you the start of the first round of the 2019 Washington, D.C. Region SCCA iRacing League, starting at Watkins Glen, New York. Out of turn 11, Ken House-Seal and DJ Alessandrini will lead them down to the green as they're waiting for that green flag to drop onto the front straightaway. And green flag flies. We're racing here at Watkins Glen.
You're going to see some drivers fanning out, some drivers in the back trying to get some positions. I believe it's the 15 of Daniel Richardson trying to make it 3 wide, but here they go fanning out into turn 1.
And side by side for the lead, Alessandrini runs out wide up over the edge of the curb. Does he come back on with the lead? No, he's going to be side by side with Ken House-Seal up through turns 1 and 2.
And here they come side by side through the S as they go, but here's the Mustang start right behind. And fairly orderly start. Some drivers going out a little bit wide.
And we'll run on back in just a moment. Let's catch up. Wow, we got 3 wide for the lead in the Kia category. 3 wide for the lead. Here we go.
Someone's got to give way here. There's no way you can go 3 wide into this corner.
We're going to try.
Oh, and it looks like a little beating and banging, but nonetheless, we're still good. Kenneth House-Seal is going to be leading the pack. And here come the Miatas now for their start. Into turn 1 they go. Here
a little pushing and shoving, but it looks like everyone's going to make it through okay. So we got our start underway, and it looks like a clean start for every class. Let's head back up front to the Kias.
Yeah, well, again, last time we saw the bump from Alessandrini, getting a little bit of a bump from behind from Kyle Herbst in that machine. So House-Seal, Alessandrini, Herbst, and Pelota. So all these guys have raced with each other before, however, in different classes. So first time they're together. Pelota to the inside of Herbst, trying to take away 3rd place.
Side by side down the back straightaway, a little bit of a push there from that yellow car. Oh man, lots of pushing and shoving going on. Who is that yellow number, the yellow cab car?
That is...
the 89, that's Kyle Herbst there with Andrew Pelota. They were almost hooked each other there for a moment.
Yeah, these guys not having too much fun with each other at the moment, racing each other very aggressively on lap number 1, but again, only 13 laps to do so. So if you're going to make some moves, got to do it now, and they're still side by side out of the boot.
You can lean on each other.
They're leaning on each other a lot.
They've been doing that the whole lap. They've been leaning on each other, fender to fender. And I talked to Dominic about this pre-race that you might see a little bit more leaning on each other with the front-wheel drive layout. You can kind of push and shove and expect the other driver to save it a little bit more. But Kyle Herbst actually edges out in front, but Pelota's not giving up just yet. We complete 1 lap, 22.5 minutes left, and still battle for the podium spot.
You can hear the tires squealing as I head off into turn 1, and you can still side by side through the
S's. Pass for the lead as well.
Oh, and House-Seal went wide in turn 1. That's allowed Alessandrini to take the lead away. But
and
both his cars in the wall.
Pelota and Herbst totaled in turn number 2, right in the middle of the racetrack. Where does the rest of the field come? They're in turn 1 and 2 right now. Is Pelota still stuck on the racetrack?
I think
he's escaping now, but the Mustangs will work their way up through turn 2, and they avoided that chaotic mess, but those cars were leaning on each other. They tangled. Let's go back and take a look at it.
Yeah, these guys, I think the story is that they are not happy with each other at all.
I gotta get a little bit better angle of this here. We'll try this one. Herbst, they just kind of went for the same spot on the racetrack, and Herbst tried to bully his way over. Did not work. They both crashed hard into the Armco in turn number 2, and big damage for them.
And here's battle for the overall lead here in the Kia class. Alessandrini leading House-Seal after House-Seal made a big mistake in turn 1. And that's allowed Alessandrini to get on through, but I don't think he's going to be quite clear for some time here.
Heading back to the Mustang category, there was a little bit of position changes here. Michael Monaghan trying to pull one away from the 4 car. Jimmy Saffel and Michael Shea behind also fighting. What about the MX-5 class, though? Here is Elias Roman and Paul Darling, 1st and 2nd in class. And just behind, Sam Scott. So kind of a return of the incumbents here in the MX-5 class, fighting for spots early here. Ooh, wow. The 461 of Richard Marco, a little bit wide off in turn number 5. And now Sam Scott has actually closed in on Paul Darnley and Elias Roman for that second and first spot. Yeah,
the entire top 5 in class for the MX-5s have all kind of grouped up towards the front of the field. It looks like something happened between the 17 and the 25. They're both falling down.
We'll grab this. This happened a little while ago, so we might have to jump back a little bit to find it. It was on the front straightaway, interestingly enough. Oh, this was a multi-car accident. Now we got to get a little bit better look. Oh, the 25 and 63 kind of hooked each other on the front
straight. A little bit of net code, and the rest of the field behind trying to avoid. The 17 gets involved. He gets put into the Armco.
So a 3-car incident on lap number 2 for the MX-5s takes out a couple of them. So the pole sitter in the Mustang category, Christopher Lapras, is still hanging on to the lead in front of Forrest Landy by 0.6 of a second. But in the Kia and the MX-5 classes, still battles. Whoa! Look at Paul Darling all over the racetrack on the rear bumper of Elias Roman, trying to get that spot away here. And Dominic, we talked earlier about patience as we saw. We were watching the pass for the lead. You said you really didn't have time to be patient. I mean, it looks like everyone's kind of throwing caution to the wind and going for it here.
Absolutely, Kyle. It looks like some of these guys are getting a bit, as we like to say, argy-bargy here in their early going. And one of the things that I think will benefit them a lot is to settle into a pace and make sure that they're set up on track to where they can battle at the end, because, as we always say, you can't win the race in the first 2 laps, but you can always lose it.
Absolutely, that is definitely true. Alessandrini and Hausil, Finian, we've seen in the past that these guys are really good at battling with each other, but one thing that never seemed to fail is if Alessandrini got in front of Ken Hausil, he was able to drive away. Not the case here tonight at Watkins Glen. Yeah,
and it's actually really surprising. So we're going to see here how long can Hausil maintain behind Alessandrini, because this is something, because as soon as Alessandrini can break away, I think he's going to have this race won. But clearly we're seeing that these two guys are stuck together like glue, and they don't have a lot of competition behind them. Their next third place is 6.4 seconds behind.
And you see it just popping out of, that's Francois Brou coming out of the corner there. They just get around the 36 car of Chris Howard. Let's check it back in on the Mustang class for the lead. Christopher Lapras and Forrest Landy nose to tail. Dave Fitzgerald about 5 seconds back, trying to hold off the charging number 4 car, but now through turns 10 and 11, Landy is all over for the lead. And remember, Landy, I believe, won a couple races last season, so he is hot on the press and ready to get another one.
Yeah, he's really one of the best drivers in this field at the moment, the way it stands. So trying to get around Lapras, who's a new driver to the series and doing a great job holding the lead. And, ooh, Landy looked like he was going to try to dive out there last second, but couldn't get it done. He's going to maintain behind him. Ooh, Lapras goes wide, though.
Again, that turn 1 area is going to be, Mustangs are going to want to go wide there quite a bit. Francois Brou, and it looks like he has had an issue. He's off the racetrack, and that's over in the bus stop area. And big damage to that number 69 car. Let's take a look.
Yeah, he was in 3rd place when this happened. So, was it a getting around the lap car?
He did. Oh, did he get the curb and just lost the rear end? And slams into the tire barrier there. Hard. Big damage. And the Kia is still going at it for the top spot.
It's still going at it for the top spot, and they have dropped like flies. We're only left with 6 Kias on the track. And actually, the only cars that have retired out of this race are Kias, so...
Well, we said earlier how frustrating they are to drive. Maybe some people just said, we're out, but actually all the cars that are gone have crash damage. So Alessandrini trying to hang on in front of Ken Hausil. This might not be over yet.
Oh, I think it's going to be far from over. I think this battle's going to go on all race long. Pretty much to their last breath. Looking behind at the Mustang battle again, it looks like there's a little bit of separation between Lapras and Forrest Landy. Landy's starting to lose a bit of the draft from Lapras, so if he's not careful, he could fall completely out of contention. But here's a big battle for 3rd place with 5 cars involved. Yeah, 3rd place, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, all kind of tightly wound together. Dave Fitzgerald leading the group. And these big bore cars, obviously the car that I'm most familiar with of these 3 classes. And big 6-speed gearboxes and big kind of groaning 4.6 liter V8. These things are fun to drive, but I think the MX-5s are having quite a lot of fun. Paul Darling he just checked out. Once he got the lead, he is gone. Sam Scott and Elias Roman and the rest of the MX-5 field still nose to tail here, though, fighting
per second.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. This is going to be the key thing: is if you can break away from the draft, and we're seeing it here as Paul Darling's broken away from the draft, you can pretty much run away with this race. So the rest of the drivers behind have to figure out something, maybe try to work together. Although I don't know how you do that on a road course drafting, but they got to figure out something. Otherwise, Paul Darling's going to run away with this win.
And Dominic, obviously, we talk about the draft a lot here at Watkins Glen, especially in the MX-5 category. But do you think you're better off being ahead of the draft, or are you better being in it and in the offensive position with 15 minutes left in this race?
So, Carl, that's actually a very interesting dynamic. As we've seen in a lot of, especially Mars events, sometimes the leading car will be the best one for the group as being the one that's towing them around, and sometimes it'll be a car that's further in the back that's better to lead them around. So if they can figure that out and have one car take the lead in that line for a little bit and make sure that they are able to advantage themselves, that can actually benefit everybody. And it's when you get into that 5 minutes to go, with 5 laps to go box, that you really, gloves come off and have something happen. But really you want to make sure that you have the best car of the group being the lead in that drafting pack.
And it looks like that's the case right now. Sam Scott is the quickest of that group, but they're still about a half a second slower than Paul Darling. He is on rails right now. But you know who is also on rails is Ken Halseal, who just wrestled the lead away from TJ Alessandrini. He took it back, and the 23 car goes back to the point.
Yeah, and we'll actually keep an eye on this. Does Alessandrini have anything to respond to? He's going to maybe try to look up the inside in DS's. Has a fender in there.
He's there, and Ken Halseal shuts the door on him as they climb the hill.
Use the momentum to his advantage, so Halseal's going to maintain that position for now. We'll track them through the bus stop, and then we got to take a replay. A look at the replay of how Halseal was able to get around, because he did a fantastic job with the pass. Although, again, not done yet.
Yeah, we'll go back. Here he comes to the inside again. Alessandrini's got to run. What will he do with it? He's going to be side by side. Is there going to be contact? No, they don't touch each other. Phenomenal driving by both drivers.
I think Alessandrini might have gotten a piece of the wall, if not very close to it. Oh boy,
they're
playing
flirting
with
with that here.
And here they come into the toe of the... No, this is the toe of the boot.
No, it's really... I don't even know what you call that part of the foot. And there's contact there as Halseal runs a little bit wide, gets into Alessandrini, but clears himself.
And now they head to the toe of the boot. And Halseal's going to keep the lead for now.
See, looking from up above how these cars race, it's quite an interesting dynamic, but the Mustangs have kind of got themselves spread out, but the battle for the lead continues here, Finian, and Forrest Landy is caught back up to Lapras and might have a look here into the bus stop.
Well, they got a lap car coming up, so this might play into this fight. Can Landy use this to his opportunity, or will he get stuck behind the lap car? Depends where they catch the Miata. And that is Patrick Alejandro in the 28 that they're getting past.
Yeah, so Lapras is all up to him now where he chooses to get by this car. And looks to the inside. It looks like Alejandro's just going to move over to the right and let both cars by. And we'll head back to the Kia lead as Alessandrini is using that draft, getting himself back up towards the front. There's MX-5's battling just ahead of them. They're about to catch quite a bit of lap traffic. So what does Alessandrini do?
Ooh,
a little bit of a push
bump,
there.
Yeah.
On the exit, Alessandrini gets a better run to the inside. Here he comes, pass for the lead again.
And if you notice at the bottom of the screen, they are catching the Miata field. So this is going to get very interesting as they go on. But here comes Alessandrini. Halseal's going to let him on by. So now what are these guys going to do as they catch the MX-5s?
Yeah, I guess that's a question for Dominic here. Well, actually, you know what? They're going to do it on the straightaway here. But Dominic, there's obviously a very delicate balance between getting out of the way and when you need to, and also running your racing line. So in terms of the SCCA, is the general rule just to hold your line even when you're completely by yourself?
Kyle, in the SCCA, and this is reciprocated throughout racing in general, you want to make sure that even if you're going to be going a lap down, you want to make sure that you stay on the racing line. The idea is to be as predictable as you can for the other car and make sure that everyone can get through the situation cleanly, because going offline can confuse or surprise someone, and that can end up being a bigger deal and event than it needs to be.
All right, and now you see the MX-5s that were doing just that. They were right on the racing line where they should be. And whoa, taking a look. Ken Halseal was going to try to use the 29 MX-5 of Khalil Natirbov as a pick. Couldn't get it done. Takes a look into turn 8, but tucks back in line, gets some grasp with the left rear tire, and swings that rear end out, but throttles back up to save that car. Maybe he'll take a look into turn 9, 10, or 11.
And here he comes trying to look, and this is a very tricky place to make a pass.
Yeah, you might just want to Might be better off sitting and waiting till the front straight and taking a look down into turn number 1. But into turn 10, really just throwing these cars around and hoping they stick. And that's been the case so far. Absolutely mega battle between these two guys. They have not let up since the start of the race. We're halfway through it already with about 11 minutes remaining.
Here you see also the 69 of Francois Brou. He's back out on the track trying to make up some time.
Hard on the brakes down to turn number 1. Hausil and Alessandrini following each other through. It seems like Alessandrini is better at the first sector of the racetrack and gets through there a lot smoother and up through the S's a little bit quicker. Let's take a look back at the Mustang battle for now. Forrest Landy is sitting right at the tail of this 04 car. I think he's just kind of biding his time and waiting to make a move.
Yeah, no, again, this is really what we talk about with patience, especially in a race like this. If you're right behind the leader, I mean, really all you need to do is finish first. It doesn't matter how far ahead you are. So I think Landy has that in mind. I think he knows that really all he has to do is just get around the car ahead. So I'm sure he's probably formulating a strategy, formulating a game plan of how to do that. But here comes Alessandrini, who's looked like he was going to make a pass on the inside of Elias Roman, I believe.
Yeah, this is they caught the podium MX-5 drivers. That's Elias Roman, who's 3rd in the MX-5 class right now. To the inside, they're going to go to Sam Scott. 3 wide, take a look for a moment. Ken Hausil thinks better of it and backs out.
Yeah, I'm glad he did, because that would have taken up 3 cars there. So Hausil's going to have to, he actually lost a little bit of time trying to do that, so he's going to have to reel in Alessandrini yet again. But there they go around 2nd place, not going to chase down Paul Darling up the road.
Yeah, they have Francois Brou and Paul Darling just in front of them, and those cars are side by side. They won't be for too much longer, but that was a very scary moment. I think maybe that was a scare tactic by Ken Hausil. Maybe make DJ look up into the mirror for a second and miss his marks, but DJ did none of the above, and Ken's going to track him back down now.
And Kendall's trying to get around. That's Paul Darling, the class leader in the MX-5, so he gets around, and they have navigated through the field. So I'm actually curious is where's the last place Mustang in relation to where they are? You gotta look at the 39.
Well, they're about 20 seconds back, I believe. So about 20 seconds up the road. Actually, we could take a look here. I don't really know how well this is going to work. The leader is the 04 car. Or we're not looking for the leader, we're looking for Claffey.
Yeah.
So let's take a look and see if we can see. Yeah, about 20-30 seconds worth.
So they may or may not catch them, actually, at the rate they're going at, so it might be kind of close here.
All right, well, that battle subsided for a moment. How about 2nd place in MX-5, Elias Roman, Sam Scott, with all that Kia carnage going on around him? They've closed back in on each other. Maybe Sam Scott's got a good run into the bus stop here. We'll see if he takes a look.
And this is the place where you want to build up that run, is considering you're pretty much flooring it through this section. Here he goes, looking very tight here. You see him get off the gas. Was tempted to get off the throttle, try to avoid contact, but here he comes up the inside.
And he should have the spot here when they get down to the bus stop. Next turn is a right-hander. There is leader Paul Darling as he drives by. Now, the battle for 2nd. Looks like Elias Roman's going to give way.
Or maybe not. It looks like he's going to try to set up a pass in the carousel. There he goes, looking to the inside. Barely gets a fender, but it's not going to be enough. Now it's enough. Gives him a bump, dents the fender of the 98.
Pushing and shoving. Great stuff around Watkins Glen.
And behind them also some great stuff, as you got two battles in 2 separate classes. But Roman trying to look to the outside. It looks like Scott's going to cover him off. Here comes a crossover as they head up to the toe.
Absolutely phenomenal battles all over the racetrack. We're trying to find the best ones for you. Alessandrini's pulled out to a 1-second lead over Ken Hausil, but it's dwindling a little bit. We'll keep watching the battle for 2nd in class in GMX5. And they're side by side. They got the number 70 Kia of Darren Treacle, who's 3rd in class for the Kias. He's coming on through and passes both of them. And behind them, Louis Alessi in the 43. There he is. He's coming as well. And it looks like Elias Roman's going to get that 2nd spot back. Now the 70 or the 43 of Alessi drives up the inside, and that's going to slow up Scott just a little bit. How about the Mustang class lead down into the boot? Lapras and Landy. Landy running a little bit wide, might try to cross up. Lapras on corner exit.
And this has been very quiet battle. I think the quietest, is that a word?
That's the word.
Okay. Of all the battles here, we've seen a lot of action in the Kias, and also a lot of action in the MX-5. This class has been actually pretty quiet, all things considered. Landy again playing the long game here rather than the short-term game. So just waiting for his opportunity to strike. He's got about three or four more laps.
Give or take, and again, It's going to come down to where you can draft on by, or maybe where you can take a dive up the inside. And all these cars have anti-lock braking systems, and a lot of drivers don't like them. Those kinds of systems on cars like this. In GT3, anti-lock brakes are very high. They have a lot of technology in them. You can just mash the pedal to the floor. In cars like this, it's all about threshold braking and just getting that brake pedal right to the point that you need. So Landy doesn't have all, you know, he's got to be careful on those brakes to not get into the ABS and lose control. And oh, here he takes a look to the inside on the front straight. This might be the pass for the lead right here.
And again, I'm waiting for he was waiting for an opportunity here. He's got one now. He's going to be to the inside of Lapras as they head off into turn 1. Can Lapras pinch him in though?
Out of turn 1, they're going to be side by side.
Landy's got the advantage, and there he goes, clears him for position, but again, not over yet as they head up to the S's.
Yeah, I think Lapras is going to need to take this back as soon as possible if he wants any shot at winning this race. He had to break the throttle there just a little bit, almost making contact with Landy, and he's going to lose some ground here.
Yeah, I think the battle is going to be over for now, but Lapras is going to build it up again, and I think Lapras definitely has the speed. I'm kind of curious now if he's going to be as patient as Landy and wait till maybe the last lap or two, or if he's going to immediately try to go back for the lead.
I guess we'll find out. Up front, you're not missing anything with the Kias. They have now separated out 1.9 seconds for Alessandrini and Hauseal. We just watched the Mustang battle. Paul Darling has a 4.9 second advantage over Elias Roman and Sam Scott. Richard DeMarco and Dennis Barrett, they're fighting for 4th in class in GMX5, but separated by about 0.6 of a second between those two. That's the closest battle on the racetrack other than the Mustang lead, which we'll go back to now.
Yeah, and here is this, and again, we're still watching this fight for position here. This was the quietest battle on the track, and now it's become one of the most intense. You see Landy counter-steering through going to the top of the boot.
And these cars have the most torque by a metric mile of any car in this race, so you're going to want to stay about a gear higher than you otherwise would and get that power down. It's so important, but Landy now kind of stretching his legs and starting to pull a little bit of a gap on Christopher Lapras.
Actually, if we can pull up the track info or the weather, actually. I'm kind of curious with the conditions. 109. Yeah, I was noticing. I just listening to Lapras's car. He was sliding through the boot a little bit, and we saw Landy also sliding. So there you're seeing these guys sliding around 109 degrees.
And it's up about 10 degrees from the start of the session. Now Elias Roman, Sam Scott closing back up. Remember the last time these guys were together, there was a little bit of push and a little bit of shove. You see the damage on the 99 as well as on the rear of the 98. That little crinkle in that right rear fender, so there might be a little bit of tension here. They might be smiling, they might be a little upset with each other. We can't know for sure, but I know right now that they have about 3.5 minutes left to take care of each other. The gap between them is 0.7 of a second.
And going back up to the Kias we haven't talked about in a while, Hauseal's fallen off the pace from Alessandrini.
I will note, though, that the lead is 1.7 seconds now. It was actually over 2 a couple laps ago.
Oh, okay. So
Alessandrini is losing a little bit of time, but he has to deal with some traffic here, too. All right, and Finian's got to get going off to his Rallycross event, so it's just Dominic and I now for the remainder of this race. Dominic, right now we're watching the battle with Forrest Landy and Christopher Lapras. We saw Landy take the lead away. Does Lapras have to force the issue here, or should he wait till the last lap?
So I think right now he's in probably the best position, and he's been mirroring what the car in front's been doing, so he has an idea of where he's stronger and where he may be weaker. So if he's smart, he's taking down those notes of where can I potentially make my move. And I don't know if waiting till the last lap is the smartest thing to do, although we are within the 3-minute window here. So if he's going to start planning his move, he's going to have to figure out where he's going to execute it, because we're going to be surely running out of time here.
And you saw Lapras there just a second ago take a look down into the toe of the boot and had to back out of it for now. But also Ryan Kristoff and Michael Shea were trading positions. A little bit of damage to that number 78 Mustang. But you see they're behind DJ Alessandrini, now the leader. He is closing in from behind as well. So there's going to be a little bit of Kia interference here towards the rear of the Mustang field. And we should be coming to the white flag this time by 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining, but we're going to keep our eyes on this Mustang battle. 2 to go left for the Mustang field here. Landy and Lapras separated by 0.2 of a second. Oh, and actually I'm going to switch over to the MX-5 field. Elias Roman, Sam Scott side by side for second in GMX-5, and Elias Roman hangs on to it for now. Does Sam Scott try to cross him up? We'll see at exit here. And here comes Richard DeMarco in the 461, who's tracked these cars down using that draft while those other two cars were battling. Now looks to the outside in the carousel. Might take a look down into turn number 6. Now, whoa, way off the racetrack. Jumps over the curb. And we'll have to settle in behind Sam Scott for the boot section. Back up in the Mustang category, Lapras now 0.4 of a second behind, but there's a 36 car. The MX-5 of Chris Howard, who's just going to stay on the racing line. There won't be any interference there as they make their way through the bus stop, and Lapras misses the bus stop. He drives through the grass, up over the curb, and is going to lose a ton of time, and that is Lapras' race opportunity to win this race over, and Landy will drive away. And I think Lapras just got distracted by that MX-5 and ran off into the grass and picked himself up a little bit of a slowdown penalty. So big implications for the Mustang class. And we'll head back to, how about MX-5? Battle for second still between Roman, Scott, and DeMarco. Only separated by a second between these cars as the Kias have taken the white flag one more time around Watkins Glen. And Dominic, we got Sam Scott right now in third place behind Elias Roman. He's trying to fight off Richard. Oh, huge crash. Never mind. Flips upside down. Sam Scott barrel rolling through pit lane, and that'll be race over for the 98 car. Right as I was about to ask Dominic how he was going to plan his attack, disaster for the 98 car. Let's quickly take a look at it and skip back up to the front. And just big crash there. A bump from DeMarco sends a 98 flipping. Let's head back up, though. Alessandrini now leads by 3.4 seconds. A guy that we knew would come in here very, very dominant. Didn't look like he was going to walk away with this one easily as Ken Houseel fought off again, but the storyline remains the same from season to season and league to league. Alessandrini and Houseel continue to battle. But Alessandrini will probably win the war once again through the last couple corners. DJ Alessandrini, from a champion in the Porsche 911 Cup Series for Track Midwest and for the Washington, D.C. region SCCA last season in the MX-5 category, wins in TCR here at Watkins Glen. Ken Houseel comes home a solid second place. Darren Treacle, Louis Alessi coming home through as well. Daniel Richardson in the number 15 Kia making his way through. He's got Bob Shoemaker behind him. Not going to be quite enough for Shoemaker to get there, but they'll finish 5th and 6th as long as they complete this lap in the order that they are in. Ryan Kristoff wide over there in turn number 1. I believe he is finished. Yes, he is. So Kristoff finished in number 7 place for the Mustang class as the final couple Kias run on through the start-finish line. Now the battle goes back to the lead. Forrest Landy wrestled it away from Lapras a couple laps ago in that Sinclair-sponsored Mustang. And just like last season, Dominic, Forrest Landy was very, very dominant, but obviously he planned that out right. So is this something we can expect to see more out of Forrest Landy? Do you think he's going to win a bunch more races with that kind of strategy?
Yeah, Colin, and I've seen Forrest Landy on the track as well, being a driver who's able to, 1, be fast in everything he enters, but 2, have a strategy that seems to work, and he really sticks with a plan and carries it out to the end. So especially in some of these touring car classes, it really favors and plays into the hands of a lot of times a steady drive rather than a sort of charge and try to get to the lead as quickly as you can drive. So that's something that I think that he's done well, and that's why we've seen him have so much success here in iRacing. And
Forrest Landy rounds turn number 11 will take the checkered flag. Forrest Landy wins in Mustang in the big bore category here at Watkins Glen for round number 1. And Christopher Lapras, with that one little mistake he made in the bus stop, threw away his chance at victory, but will come home a solid second place. Dave Fitzgerald in the number 19 car will come across in 3rd. Michael Monaghan out of turn 11 will come home in 4th. David Alessi in 5th place in that number 34. And that should be the final car on the lead lap, and indeed it is. So another great race here for the Washington, D.C. region SCCA. Here's a look at your unofficial results here tonight. And we'll let them scroll on through here again in a moment, showing Nicholas Palecchio, Andrew Pelota, Kyle Herbst. Those guys crashed right at the beginning of the race. 2 drivers we thought would be very, very competitive, and they were for the opening couple laps. But again, DJ Alessandrini winning, Ken Hausiel, Darren Treacle, your podium drivers in the TCR category. Forrest Landy, Christopher Lapras, Dave Fitzgerald, podium in Mustang. Paul Darling, Elias Roman, and Dennis Barrett, podium in MX-5. So there is your finishing order. We'll let that scroll on through. And we'll be back in just a moment with interviews and the rest of the coverage. We'll be back and stay with us. Welcome back live here to Sim TV. We're here with race winner DJ Alessandrini. DJ, again, what a battle with Ken Hausiel. You guys are just two peas in a pod together on the racetrack and can't seem to get away from each other. And for quite some time there, it was door to door and bumper to bumper, and a little pushing, a little bit of shoving, come out on top once again. Walk us through that incredible battle with the 23 car.
Well, it was an incredible battle because it's an incredible car. The Kia is just a blast to drive. You can just push and shove each other around, and it doesn't matter because it's the correct wheel drive, and you just pull out of any kind of spinning. I don't know if you guys caught when we started pit maneuvering each other, but the Kia didn't care because it's the best car in the game. It was a great time.
Obviously, it was fun to watch for sure. We had the cameras locked on you guys for most of that battle. Ken Houseel, driver the number 23. Ken, second place. You started on pole, and it got kind of wrestled away from you there early in the going, but quite a battle you had there with DJ. What was it like from your perspective?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, the Kia is just a fantastic car, and we were battling real hard, pushing each other around, like DJ said. It was a lot of fun. Got a little unlucky with lap traffic. Maybe I should have just pushed them around a little too, but didn't work out my way today.
All right, so guys, I want to congratulate you guys on a solid finish and a fantastic race. It was great show to watch for sure. Thanks for talking to us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys, as always.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. All right, now I think we're going to talk to, hopefully Forrest Landy is around, and indeed he is. Hey, you got a copy, Forrest? Don't know if he's around necessarily. We'll probably have to jump around. Some of these guys kind of bailing in and out of Discord here. Hey, Elias, you got a copy?
I sure do.
All right, we got it all sorted out. Well, while I'm waiting on a couple other people to join Discord here, we'll talk to you. Finished second in the GMX5 category in that number 99 car. An amazing battle with the guys around you, but ultimately coming up just one spot short. Walk us through that incredible battle you were having. A lot of drafting and a lot of pushing and shoving.
So firstly, I just want to thank you guys for the awesome commentary you're doing. I'm actually glad I'm finally on the podium and be able to talk to you guys. Yeah, so qualifying was good. Had good pace. Had a little bit of help with drafting. Was able to nail down a 210 just to edge out Paul. First couple of laps went well. Was trying not to defend too hard. When Paul got by me, I just had the mindset of just tucking behind him and just kind of following through and make my move later in the race. But I think as the track temp went up, the car started to push really, really bad. And also we lost pace for Paul. Had a great battle with Sam. It was nip and tuck, but luckily to come out and finish second.
All right, obviously a fantastic battle you had there, Elias. So first of all, I want to congratulate you on a solid podium spot, and hopefully you can continue to see up there. It was a great run for you, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
No problem. All right, now I think we have our Mustang winner, Christopher Lapras, in the house here, so we'll move him over to the commentary box. Hey, Finian's back. Hey, Christopher, you got a copy? No copy of Christopher Lapras. We'll try that again in a moment. How about Paul Darling? Let's see if he is around. I saw him there a second ago. Some of these guys are kind of darting in and out. And I'm not seeing any drivers there, so maybe we'll try one more time for... Oh, Chris's mic is working now. We'll try that one more time. Hey, Christopher, you got a copy?
I do.
There we go. We got you now. All right, well, what a battle you had there with Forrest Landy, and obviously came up one spot short, a little bit of pushing and shoving, and an incredible pass down there by Forrest down in turn number 1. But just walk us through that battle with Forrest and try to keep that 14 car behind you.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a good time. Forrest was pretty much on me the whole race, and I broke a little late, gave him some space, and he took the lead. And then once he got ahead, it was very hard to concentrate because his car was bouncing quite a lot. And then coming into the chicane or the bus stop with the Miata there, I just missed it and got a black flag.
Yeah, obviously not the way you wanted to end that race, but do you think you could have wrestled it back away had that bus stop incident not occurred?
I don't know. Maybe with a little bit of luck, but we pretty much had the same pace, I think.
All right, Christopher. Well, thanks for talking to us, and still a second place finish for you, and hopefully we'll see you on top of the podium next week. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you, guys. It was a good time.
We'll see you later. All right, I think we couldn't get a hold of Paul Darling. He popped in for a minute, but he bailed. So we're going to drag in maybe one more driver. Let's see. How about Dave Fitzgerald? We don't talk to him a whole lot. Hey, Dave Fitzgerald, it's Kyle. You got a copy?
Yeah, buddy, how are you?
We're doing great, Dave. What a race around a lot of the racetrack in every single class that we saw, but a podium finish For you in that number 19 car tonight, what did you see from your perspective in that Mustang?
Well, the first few laps are really good. There was a battle pack of about 4 or 5 of us. Then it sort of spread out, and I was battling with Dave Alessi, and for about 2 or 3 laps, and then somehow I think he had some snap oversteer and just sort of went off track left, and then I was pretty much circulating by myself. But it was a good race. I heard the commentary from the guys, elsewhere on the track. They seemed to be having a good time.
It was certainly a great battle to watch everywhere. Even the Kias, the Mustangs, and the MX-5s all had battles throughout. We saw a lot of drafting going on with the MX-5s and a lot of pushing and shoving going on in the Kia category. What was it like in the Mustangs? Was it kind of more give and take in traditional passing, or was it MX-5 style or Kia style?
No, I think it was more traditional. These beasties are, they're not as nimble as those other 2 cars, so you really have to rely on some good racecraft and maybe some late braking. But for the most part, it was pretty clean, I thought. I heard some action behind me, but I think for the most part, it went pretty easy for everybody. Those Kia guys are pretty excitable, so I'm glad we gave them a new toy to play with.
Of course, obviously, the Kia, a very popular car, at least with DJ Alessandri. Dave, thanks for talking to us. Congrats on a podium, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, buddy. See you at New Jersey.
All right, we'll see you. All right, I think that's going to wrap up the interviews tonight. We couldn't quite get a hold of Power Learning long enough to talk to him, Finian, but you're back for a moment. What a race that was.
Yeah, I could hear from the other room.
We had a car barrel rolling onto pit lane.
Okay,
so.
I heard you scream about something. I was like, oh, something interesting's happening. But yeah, from what I saw for most of the race, for all 23 minutes that I watched, very interesting dynamic between the classes, especially with the Kias, and just fantastic racing overall, especially for the lead and all of them. I don't think there's really any boring battle for the lead. It was all really close for all 25 minutes. Could have been closer had some things not happened, but still just fantastic race overall.
Yeah, and Dominic Mandiel with us one more time. Dominic, that class structure, very interesting. The Kia is very much like a touring car. We saw a lot of pushing and shoving, and I think that's going to mean next week at New Jersey Motorsports Park, we're going to see quite a bit more of that at a little bit smaller of a racetrack, Dominic. So what was your insight on that race and your opinion on how things went down tonight?
Yeah, so I thought that the classes mingled very well. I thought that the combination of the straights benefiting both the Mustang and Kia, and then the corners benefiting the MX-5 would play to the strengths of the various cars, which I think it makes Watkins Glen a great equalizer for different types of machines. And overall, I think the drivers minded their P's and Q's, so to speak, and everyone ended up making it through pretty well. A few came off a little bit scathed, but overall, everyone had a great time, and nice to see the positive feedback for the Kias, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do for the rest of the season.
All right, that'll wrap up the coverage here tonight from Watkins Glen International. I'm Kyle Heyer here with Finian DeCuna and Dominic Mandiel. We'll see you next week at New Jersey Motorsports Park. That's going to be quite a fun race. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.